Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Before the Altar. I'm Father James Mallon, pastor here at Our Lady of Guadalupe Parish, and I welcome all of you who are joining us in the moment live, or if you're watching this video afterwards. Before the Altar is a video that we produce from time to time, which we have a conversation before the altar. The altar is a place of sacrifices where we celebrate the Eucharist. So we think of the words of St. Paul, who says, offer yourselves as a living sacrifice. And so we meet with various guests to hear their story about what's their why. Why are they laying their life down? Why are they living their lives for the Lord in a particular way? And today I'm joined by a special guest, Bryan Funcion. And Funcion, I keep getting that wrong. Bryan, you are one of our new staff members. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what your present role here is at the parish?
Okay, Father, thank you for that. Well, I'm the outreach coordinator for 2 months now, exactly today.
Good.
And
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you, Father. And I have to develop, to promote, and for the growth of the outreach ministry in our parish, finding some funds as well, where to find or how to make the outreach ministry grow, some partnerships that we have to do, and to attend other things. And what we call the other stuff that I have to do things in the parish.
Yeah, and we're talking social outreach here.
Yes.
So principally outreach to the poor.
Yes.
It's one of the unique things in our parish is that we do have a second location, the St. Anthony's location, and a lot of different ministries and in partnerships there. A lot of work was existing for quite a long time in our parish, but a lot of the partnerships had been developed by Jen Dean, who had been in this role before you.
Thank you for for her service and for her dedication.
So we'll get back at the end of the conversation about some of the particulars with the social outreach role, but I do want to remind you that this is a conversation not just with myself and Bryan, but also with you. And although I need to hold my phone out at arm's length here, please, if you have any questions for Bryan, just put them in the chat and I'll get a chance to ask those questions. Bryan, now it's obvious from your accent
Yes.
that you possibly were born and grew up somewhere else. Tell us a little bit about where you're from.
From the Philippines, obviously with my accent. And I have 3 kids. Their accent is different from mine.
Yes.
So we arrived here just last November.
So you've been in Canada for less than a year. That's incredible. How the heck did you end up here?
It's a long story, but to cut it short, way back 2019, as I've shared to you, Father, earlier, my wife, after our prayer time, said, you know what, God is telling us to migrate. Like, are you sure? But me, as an obedient husband, I said, if that's God's will, why not? But to be honest, I cried in my prayer time. I said, Lord, you know that I cannot really say no to you when you call us. And if it is really your calling, then we have to say yes. We thought that we'll be going to New Zealand, where they have an arranged employer somehow in Auckland. But I think it was almost October where they changed the migration policy, that it's going to be hard for us to bring our kids and for us to have permanent residency. So one of our friends said, you need to have plan B. And so we considered maybe Australia or Canada. And in our prayers and discernment, we decided, so we need to go to Canada then. So we started that time through student pathway, Father. Mm-hmm. And we applied. I applied. I could still remember because I got a scholarship from Royal Alberta College. So we thought we're gonna do through student pathway. I applied February 2. February 4 is my birthday, and I said, Lord, this is gonna be your gift unto me. February 4, I received the rejection. My visa was denied, and then came pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
The school.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, the school informed us that they will be closing, and they don't know yet when they're gonna open. But I already lodged my second application. So I tried again, and I looked for another school. Holland College, I was accepted.
That's in Prince Edward
Yeah.
Island, isn't it? Yeah.
PEI. I took marketing and advertising. And it was open for students online because it was pandemic time. So during my school online, I keep on trying and for my visa. And I got denied. I always share this to other people. Out of my desperation, I was looking, who's saying I'm gonna call, to expedite my visa application. Well, from the term itself, expedite. So I called, had my novena with Saint Expedite. And yeah, it's true, Father.
Saint Expedite.
Yeah, to expedite, your prayer request. It was still on my 7th day of my 9 days prayer. I got the answer, and I got no. Still the same.
Another no.
Yeah.
So how did you end up being able to be here in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia?
My wife was a dentist in our country. One of her patients shared about her going to Nova Scotia and things like that. So I said, "Who's her immigrant consultant?" And yeah, I emailed I emailed the consultant, and he even said, "Why did you apply for student? You have a strong background for your work." So I said yes. So we submitted all the documents, and yeah, we got the nomination 2022 December. No, 2023 April, and we got our visa October, and yeah, that's why we're here.
And what were you doing in the Philippines before you left?
Oh, I was a chef and a cook at the same time. I was so exposed because we ran our business, and then I worked as a chef also and as a cook. It was pretty different life before I became a chef.
And where in the Philippines were you?
My wife is from a province called Negros Occidental, where she got her own dental clinic, and it's where we got our business as well, as a restaurant, as a family.
So you guys ran a restaurant,
yeah,
and a dental clinic.
Yes, Father.
And you left all this to come to Canada.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, there are many things in what you've said, Bryan, that for many of us, it's like, how do we begin to process this? Now, what is obvious to me is that you talked about obedience to the Lord and the Lord's call. So, you've got a bedrock of faith here. This is significant in your life. Tell us a little bit about your faith journey. Have you always been kind of alive? Has your faith always been important to you?
Yes, I guess so, as I can say. I wasn't baptized as a Catholic. I grew up as a Protestant, became a Protestant youth defender, as I may call it. And then when I was in the university...
You said a youth defender?
Yeah, like
what is
protesting, like telling the Catholics that, you know what, the real faith is the Protestant faith.
Oh, I see. You were a real protester.
Yeah.
A protesting Protestant.
Yes. Like defending, like, no, you don't have the truth. And I could still remember that day when my classmate said, I can't give you my notes from our previous class. And she said, you know what, I need to attend for the Eucharistic Mass. After that, I'm going to give you the notes. And I said, what's that? Like, don't ask anything. You just have to respect. Go with me. And after that, I promise you, you can photocopy whatever I have written. And I said, okay, yes. I could still remember the gospel where Jesus was asleep and the boat was about to sink when Jesus said, be still. Right? And it struck my heart. That's why I have high regard with the Eucharist. It's something in my heart that says, this is home. This is home. After that encounter, I researched about the Catholic faith. Nobody invited me or pushed me to be a Catholic. It just, I researched about it, and I realized there's so many things that I thought was the truth. And like, oh my goodness.
How old were you at that time?
I was 18, 19.
Wow.
Yeah. I researched about my faith and even dig deeper. I even went to research about the creation, the theology of Eckhart, and all this stuff. And aside from that, because I researched about what's the real Catholic should be, I encounter about justice and theology, justice and faith, and things like that. Liberation theology,
And liberation theology was a way of bringing gospel truths to a social commentary, a social analysis.
Justice,
Was somewhat influenced by Marxism.
Yes.
And so it was a little dicey. There were elements of truth in it, but some things that were problematic. But that's a whole other topic. But so you ended up becoming a Catholic.
Yes, Father.
How old were you when you became a Catholic?
Yeah, for that year. But the priest said, you know what, I will baptize you when you're ready.
So you hadn't been baptized yet?
I was baptized when I was already 21 years old. Because something happened between that. You said about communism. I went to that extreme from being Catholic to totally...
So you started getting into reading about social justice and liberation theology, and it influenced you in a not so good way.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Because I was... It made me question, like, how can be God? I mean, how can God be present to the poor? How can God be present of what's going on in our society? So I dig deeper, and it made me think, like, maybe Karl Marx is correct. The funny thing, his design of the commune parish is from the Bible. So the Christians is the example. He's just taking out Christ into that equation. So I went to that point, to that extreme, joining underground for the communist movement. And
so you joined an underground communist movement.
Under the youth or the student wing.
And let me ask you about looking back now, what was the why for that? What was burning in your heart that made you take that step?
Because I have the passion to have social justice, the passion to serve for the poor, for those who are who experience injustices in their lives, those who are not being heard, those who are being deprived.
I think in many ways, I mean, there are social injustices in every nation of the world, in every culture, but certainly in your context in the Philippines, some of that injustice is a bit more overt, perhaps.
Yes, Father.
Yeah. And how did this getting involved in a communist movement? It sounds like James Bond stuff or something. How did that impact your faith?
Well, I funny because I still have to attend for the mass. The very reason why I have to do that, so that I can influence other youth as well, to have the same stand, like to go underground, to influence them. But along that way, I recall that day, after our underground meeting, on my way back to the dormitory, it was raining. It was so dramatic anyway. But deep within my heart, like someone is whispering, telling me, "My son, why have you forsaken me?" And I cried like it was my first heartbreak. I was really crying and I can't understand it. And after that weekend, the priest, may his soul rest in peace, Father Dongal Insoga, said to our group, what's the real freedom? He said unto us, real freedom can only be attained through Jesus Christ. That's what true liberation is. That's what true democracy is, to be liberated by Christ and through Christ. And I know that he was talking to me directly because I was the only person in that group who was so involved with justices and political activism. I was the only one in that group.
And how old, this is before you were baptized?
Yes, Father.
And so this is quite a profound conversion. So you went on to be baptized a Catholic and obviously integrate, bring this this desire for justice, which is really, it's innate to us as human beings, isn't it? That comes from being created in the image and likeness of God. How did you then go on to integrate that desire for justice into into a faith foundation in the person of Jesus?
Well, after that encounter, after I finished my degree, I joined the Singles for Christ ministry under the
What
Couples
would-
for Christ,
What was your degree in?
Bachelor of Science in Forestry.
Forestry.
Yeah,
Man,
exciting.
forestry, communist agitator, cook, chef.
Yeah,
It's quite a lot of experiences.
a lot really, Father.
So you said you worked for tell us about Couples for Christ.
It's a global ministry organization, a lay ministry for family renewal, and they have different ministries for different ages or ranges of maturity. Like we have Kids for Christ, Youth for Christ, Singles for Christ. We have the Couples for Christ. We have the Handmaids of the Lord. The counterpart of that is Servants of the Lord.
Brian, I first met Couples for Christ about 20 years ago in our diocese, because a lot of Filipino families had moved here, and so Couples for Christ is very present all over the world, isn't
Yeah,
it?
all over the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, I joined the Singles for Christ ministry. It is where I realized more that, you know what, Christ is really the way, to set free not just the person, not just the family, but the community as well. It's not through hatred, not through violence, because a real Christian must give its hand to the poor. Because Couples for Christ also got their work with the poor ministry. We call it ANCOP, answering the cry of the poor. So that time we call it Gawad Kalinga, where we build houses and community to the poorest of the poor.
Wow.
I said, this should be the way, and where I can be a true Christian.
What a gift for you to. I think sometimes in Christian organizations, Catholic organizations, the church as a whole, the call to go to the least and the lost, so the
Yeah.
poor, the social gospel, and the evangelical side of the church can sometimes end up in two camps. And it seems that if you have a passion for social justice and serving the poor, that we kind of leave the call to conversion or evangelization behind.
Yes, it's
And
true.
sometimes the opposite can happen. You can be so into evangelization, discipleship, that you just don't even stop to think about serving the poor. But I think a truly Catholic response is you can't separate them. Not everyone is going to be called to do everything, but we have to hold them together.
True. That's what one of the speakers that I will always remember his message that says, how can you say, I praise the Lord when you close your eyes to the poor?
Yeah.
Do you think God will be happy? I was like, yeah.
Well, it's like the second reading today from
Yes.
from the letter to James, faith and works and the necessity of serving the poor. Brian, I'm just conscious that we are blowing through the time here. It's just such an
Sorry for
interesting.
that.
Well, no, it's an interesting, so interesting. We have about another 11 minutes, 12 minutes, but I want to remind you, if you're listening, if you have any questions for Brian, just please type them in here. So Couples for Christ, you're full-time then as a missionary?
I was a missionary with Couples for Christ, Father, for more than 3 years, yeah. And I spent like a year in the Philippines, and I was sent in South Africa for almost 2 years.
You were there as
Yeah.
a missionary in South Africa?
Yeah, for
Wow.
Couples for Christ. Yeah, I had mission there. That's why this morning I was like, one of the persons says, that one looks familiar to me.
Yes,
Because
that
I
was-
went to, yeah. it's
That was
like
one of our African parishioners who
Yeah.
was wearing a particular dress. Yeah.
that looks like South Africa to me. And
So
yeah.
Brian, it's incredible. You bring this incredibly rich experience, rooted in passions that have shaped your life's journey. From being a follower of Jesus when you were young, and the journey through social justice, becoming a Catholic, finding balance, and working for Couples for Christ. And now you're here in Dartmouth. And I have to say, when I saw your application, I was like, is this guy for real? Because it was like, it's like this is a really interesting resume. And then we interviewed you, and you have the position. And I'm just really excited about how God is going to use you. Because I think as well in Couples for Christ, you have got a lot of experience in evangelization, discipleship, and leadership development, all of these things,
Yes, Father.
which are so important for parish ministry in terms of what we're trying to do here. Let's go back to Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Well, to the subject of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Maybe tell the viewers a little bit about the number of things that are happening in our parish around social outreach.
Yeah, with regards to that, Father, as what I said, thanks to Jen for the wonderful work that you have done. So we have lots of outreach programs in our parish, one of which are our food bank, of course, the Beyond the Bread, our feeding for others. We have our House of Hope.
So food bank is
The
in
one in
North Dartmouth.
North Dartmouth.
Last couple of weeks we've been serving about 160 families a week.
Yes.
Feed Others of Dartmouth is a
In
soup
Margaret's
kitchen.
house, yes.
We have several teams who do that. What's Beyond the Bread?
That's with Ray and Dorothy. They're doing great job also.
And what is it they do?
They do for, I forgot the term, where,
The halfway houses.
yeah, the halfway houses.
yeah.
Yeah, because
I
we
think
don't have that term in our
we have
country.
3 halfway houses in our parish.
Yeah,
So
and
they
we're-
help with food.
they're doing great job, and I'm so amazed actually how these people really so devoted and so passionate in serving for the poor. And
So what else is going on?
we have Kairos for those from the correctional and helping them out. We also have our House of Hope. We have 3 occupants in that house, and of course our crisis shelter. We have 1, and
Yep.
we're doing good. And just recently, we got the approval and support from Windsor Foundation. We can do it properly and put the funds for the maintenance at St. Anthony.
So this was an application
Yeah.
that you guys did for funds from a secular foundation.
Yes,
And how much did the parish receive?
25,000 just last Friday.
Just last Friday, yeah,
Praise
I got
God.
the email. It was like, ooh. Because the facilities over there haven't really been well managed, and I think in many ways our dream is that we can use the facilities that we have right now as much as possible in a sustainable way to
Yes.
serve the poor. We also have mobile food mart
Yeah.
that we partner with.
Mobile food market.
Now, I'm going to ask you about 2 things. One is on this location, at the St. Peter's location, for many years we had a food pantry,
Yeah.
and that was run by St. Vincent de Paul, which are no longer operating in our parish. But the food pantry's still on, isn't it?
Yes, Father.
Tell us a little bit about that.
As you've mentioned, St. Vincent de Paul is no longer here, but we're so grateful with the parishioners who still keep giving food to help those who are in need. And this month, we're doing the inventory for all the stocks that we have by maybe 3rd Saturday. Oh, it's already over. Maybe by October, on the 3rd Wednesday, we'll open it so that those who are in need, we can give them. Or after the 11 a.m. Mass, our parishioners might have, or they're in need of some food, we can give it to them.
So this is non-perishable items.
Yeah.
So we're still receiving, parishioners are able to bring non-perishable items to the weekend masses, and we're still able to have
put
it
it
here
there in Our
on
Lady's
site.
Pantry.
And there's, as I understand, another initiative that we're partnering with Chalice Canada,
Yeah, it's
with
it's
Father Pat
exciting.
Cosgrove's organization, and it's called Micro Chalice.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit
They
about
call
what
it
that is.
a shared table. It's empowering. It's a financial empowerment, not just for our parishioners, but to those, especially in the North Dartmouth, where those are in great need or in dire need. That they need to be grouped together. And thank you, Chalice, for having partnership with our parish. And from then on, we have the seed money, and like one person can borrow some money, but everybody is accountable, not just the person. So if someone will miss, they make sure that this person will be able to pay, so that others can have then access also to have that loan without an interest. So it's going to be a model. Our parish is the model together with Truro Parish as well.
So
for
as
this
I
one.
understand it, this is a model of facilitating stewardship or people to
Yes.
grow in their stewardship of their own resources, to learn about managing finances, and it's modeled after something that's been done in the third world.
Yes.
And as I understand it, this is a chance to say, could this work in the first? Could this work here? No, we don't know if it's going to work.
We don't know.
But you won't know until you try something.
Yeah.
And I think Chalice wants to try it here, and as you said, the parish in Truro as well. And we're partnering. The parish has put money up to sponsor the pilot project here. And one of the things is, it was actually something that Father Pat said. He pointed out how often he'd been frustrated in church ministries to help the poor, that often sometimes we can make a short-term difference, but not a long-term difference. We, in fact, sometimes can even long-term make a negative difference. We can create dependency rather than helping people to break free of the cycle of poverty. We create dependency, and when that happens over an extended period of time, I sometimes wonder, Brian, whose needs are actually being met here? Is it really the needs of the poor, or is it our own need to feel like we're helping the poor?
Yeah. It's a good concern, really, Father, for us as Christians, so that we can see that our faith is truly alive and working if those who are in need can see Jesus through us. As I quote Cardinal Tagle this morning in his video, he said, our faith should go towards compassion to the poor, and our compassion should go towards action to help them out so that they can see Jesus through us.
Brian, we have a question, and it's from Deacon Robert Doyle. Hi, Deacon Robert. No, I have to hold my phone out here. It says, not that you won't be busy enough in your new role, but do you see any other areas of social outreach you would like to initiate that don't presently exist in our parish?
That's a good question.
It's a very good question.
I'm still, to be honest, contemplating, because there are some experiences that I have might not be applicable here. As Father said, I came from the Philippines, because I'm thinking, what are the other things? We have the financial empowerment through the Chalice shared table, and there might be some other ways as well, where we can not just dole out, but to dignify and to empower those who are in need. So I'm still thinking, what are the applicable ministries or actions or programs that we can do it? And that's all I can say. I'm still discerning, really.
Sure.
That's why I keep on asking.
You've only been here for 2 months, right?
Yeah. I'm asking the legalities and everything.
I got to acknowledge as well that my mistake. It's a different Robert Doyle. So sorry, Robert. This is the Robert Doyle who's not a deacon. Another question. Pat asks, is the parish continuing on with the faith and wellness group this fall?
Oh, yeah. With regards to that, because we need someone who got a certification for mental health. And as of now, they said they can't find anybody who got that certification.
Yeah, we did have someone who had that training before, but that person is not involved anymore.
Yes. And yeah, if any parishioners got that certification and is willing to, devote for faith and wellness, you're very much welcome.
I think we did have a conversation around another program that is being run in a Catholic context as a possible replacement. So that conversation, I think, is still open.
Yeah.
Brian, we're out of time.
Oh,
that's half an hour already. It's incredible. Folks, if you're like me, you listen to Brian's story, his testimony, his background, it's like you sound like you've got the goods. You get all the perfect mix, a strong faith foundation, because this role, with Jen's role previously, it was full-time, designated to the social outreach task, and because of our needs, we had to downsize our staff because of financial constraints. One of the things is that this outreach is not the only responsibility. You're going to be taking on other responsibilities within
Yes,
the
Father.
parish, to the point of it only being about maybe a half-time position. So we're kind of not making it up as we go along, but we're learning as we go along. But I really enjoyed our very rushed, it feels like a rushed conversation, but
Me too, Father.
what comes across to me is the depth of the faith, your own faith and your wife's faith. And I want to say, on behalf of our parishioners, thank you
Thank you also.
for being obedient to God's call, and thank you for stepping up to share your gifts in ministry with the parishioners. Any final remarks or comments? And if you want to address the camera behind me directly to our viewers, what do you want to tell the folks who are listening?
Well, first, thank you for receiving me here, allowing us to, do the mission, allowing me to translate the calling of what we believe is God's calling in our family. But I invite everyone, if God is, for sure, God is knocking in your heart right now. God is telling you, you have so much more to do. The harvest is plenty. We need the laborer. You are the laborer. You are the laborer. You are the representative of God, of Christ. People are waiting for you to say yes. Jesus is waiting for your yes in His service, in His love, for your love. Thank you so much.
Amen, amen. And that's what it means to be a missionary parish, when parishioners wake up to that calling that we're called to, not just to be in relationship with Jesus, but to take on the mission of Jesus.
Amen.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you, Father, as well.
God bless.
God bless.